Hi, my name's Brad Teal, and together with Prue Bryant, we're here to give you a little bit of an update of how 2017 has started. This is the February 2017 snapshot, and it started off pretty well, particularly rentals, Prue.
Absolutely.
How many?
123 leased in January.
That's a lot of lettings, and what that has shown is that, well, traditionally January is a busy month for rentals anyway, and sales are a bit slower because it's so busy over the September, October, November springtime market, and then December, and the market comes to a bit of a halt at Christmas. Everybody, mostly estate agents, go and have a little bit of a rest on the beach over January, and then we start up, and our auctions start next Saturday, and then every Saturday we rise basically up till about Easter, middle of April we get really busy, and then you calm down a bit over winter. I'll talk about that seasonality in a moment. But look, in terms of the market, we've got strong growth. Again, you'll read about that in the headline act of the papers. RP Data CoreLogic is where we get most of our information from. The REIV is where we get some of it, particularly our median prices. But the CoreLogic Home Value Index shows a 0.7% rise across all combined capital cities. But the highlight there is Hobart leading the way for probably the first time. Sydney second, and Melbourne 0.7% growth. One decline actually was Darwin decline, and Perth was pretty flat, 0.2%. The median price movements for all of the suburbs where we operate in the northwest of Melbourne, the 10 office network, 1,130,000 in Ascot Vale. Once again, a highlight area. Very strong in rentals as well, isn't it?
It is, yes, definitely our strongest suburb at the moment.
And what do the staff say about that whenever they go down in regard to their assessment of rentals?
Yeah, so we go to an appraisal to do a property in Ascot Vale. We'll appraise it, and probably a month after or 3 weeks later, we're advertising it, and it's actually increased. So we might be saying it $600 per week, and then a few weeks later when we go to advertise the property, it's actually jumped already by $50 to $100, which is huge.
When you do an open time during the year, we typically expect 3, 4, 5 people to go through.
Yeah, no.
How many?
We're getting at least 10 to 15.
At open times.
Yeah.
We do open times for rentals a couple of times a week.
We do midweeks, and we also do, which is generally after hours on a Wednesday or Thursday night, and always on a Saturday.
And that really helps minimise vacancy factor for our landlords.
Yeah, absolutely.
So back to the sales. On the screen you'll see all of those median prices, in particular Avondale Heights pushing up $800,000. We'll crack the mill maybe over the next year or so. Essendon pushing up to $1.5 million. Gisborne 662. Caroline Springs, wow, who would have thought that was 350, I think, remembering there a couple of years ago. It's up to 575. And Keilor pushing up $846,000. And these are all on a quarterly basis provided by the REIV. The ABS reports a 2.9% drop in housing approvals across Australia, and Melbourne was, in fact Victoria was 2.5%. Now, I've said this before, but just because there are approvals doesn't mean they're getting built. A lot of approvals of dwellings relates to unit approvals in Victoria, and there is a substantial amount of approvals in the CBD area. And what we see is a lot of testing of the market. There are really strict requirements that developers have to get to. A certain number of sales before a bank will fund. So they've got to get to a threshold of maybe 50 or 60% of sales off the plan before a bank will fund that development. So just because they're permitted to be built doesn't mean they actually get to the final building stage. The next thing I want to talk about is seasonality, and the seasonality of the property market. Years and years ago it was dominated maybe as much as 35 or 40% in the springtime, September, October, November. Everybody knows the popularity of the springtime market. But what we've seen is, and once again CoreLogic have given us these details, is that 27% of sales occurred last year in autumn, which surprised me when I read it, and 26% in the spring. But that still makes up 53% of the sales are in those two seasons. But 22% when you consider January is quiet, 22% in the summer means that December is a very busy time as well. And we also have winter, 25%, so a quarter of the sales still occur. A lot of off-market transactions in the winter time with 25%. So that seasonality has flattened out a little bit than what I recall many years ago. It was always about the opening up of the Feb, March, April market, and springtime was always the dominant market of the year. So we hope that gives you a little bit of a snapshot of, well, the seasonality was certainly interesting, the building permitting across the land, and the growth of capital cities, and a little bit of rental information. So are you in for a big year?
We are, most definitely.
Good. So thank you for watching our video, and we look forward to a really big year with all of our staff at Brad Teal Real Estate. 2017 is going to be great for everyone.